You mentioned your customer, and this is actually a perfect follow up question. Basically, the question asks, especially in the beginning, were there any data driven pivots that Chubbies made based on customer feedback?
Countless. I mean, I think we tried. That's kind of like how we tried to operate. So what are a couple examples? This isn't going to be perfect, but one was just like understanding what would drive the most, what customer journey would drive the most customer lifetime value, like get you to purchase, basically bring you the most joy, and then you'd want to provide remuneration for the joy we were providing, right? So like what ideal first product, second product, third product combo were ideal for the customer journey, and then shaping your whatever, your marketing automation or your marketing efforts around that very specifically, that being number one. Number two, I mean, just very basic, like let's ask our customers what they want us to make. Let's throw out a bunch of ideas and have them tell us. And uh, and so like just kind of super basic surveying, things like that. Uh, so that's like digital data. I think one of the earliest things we did was just sell in person. So like not quite door to door sales, but our first products we sold were like in San Francisco, in person, at Fort Mason or at any one of the parks. I mentioned Square Card Reader, right? People would just come up to us because we were just a bunch of friends in tiny bright shorts. Like it looked very weird and different at the time. But just interacting with people, with potential customers in person, like that's data. That's a data driven decision based on customer feedback. You know what I mean? Like what angle are people resonating with? What products do they like? How do they talk about it? The people who say they hate it, why do they say they? All of that kind of stuff is just like so valuable. So it doesn't. I guess my point there is to do in person stuff as much as you can because that's probably where you learn the most, honestly, in the early days.
What did you realize that people hated, or what did you have to change based on that feedback?
Well, I think the funny thing about people hating what you're doing in general when you're talking about like a consumer brand is that that's a good thing because your brand is clear enough to where there is something to hate. The real enemy is apathy, where people don't know what you are, what you stand for, and therefore there's not like an idea that's clear and salient enough to hate, to think is stupid, to think is whatever, to XYZ. So that reframe, very important from like a consumer brand perspective. Um, but then like the maybe not necessarily hated, but just like as it relates to things that maybe people who liked what we were doing but didn't like XYZ. Uh, Maybe like one example was a lot of, and this is I guess data driven as well from like a returns perspective, but a lot of people would whether it be like wearing chubbies and then doing a workout like squatting, a squat workout or whatever, they split the inseam. And so we obviously had like some product quality things we had to learn about and had to fix and XYZ. So I'm just saying pretty obvious stuff, but maybe the note on like people disliking you or getting hate or whatever, like not cowering from that. Like clearly, if you're doing something that's like truly angering people and it's like your fault and whatever, obviously be like a reasonable human. But it's like, no, I mean, I'm okay that people really don't like what we're doing because they're just not a fit for what we're doing. And that's actually a good thing because there are a lot of people who are a fit and they friggin' love it. And therefore, there have to be this like yes and no for there to be a strong community that you can build a brand around in the first place.
Did you have an ideal customer in mind when you guys first started out? Like, was that something that was
Yeah, it
well
was us.
defined?
It was,
Well, there you
I
go.
mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't for a long time. No, it wasn't on paper. It was just the four of us as humans, just making it for ourselves. So like we were we were basically just making stuff for ourselves, and there were four of us, and we were all very different in our own little way. So it kind of provided nice little whatever customer avatars or archetypes or whatever people call it these days. But yeah, and it gets back to your earlier point that like you know what you want, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. Like that matters. That is more than enough of a guide because I can tell you there are more than enough people who are like you, who are not getting served by whatever the current incumbent thing is. You're not one person. Now, that first idea you come up with where you're like, this sucks. I'm going to start a business around that. I like provide a reasonable filter on top of it, of course, but I would probably be more forward leaning on, yeah, I could turn that into a business than, it won't work because you're going to learn something in the process. And that's ultimately like what the goal is.
I watched this Gary V video back from, I don't know, it must have been like '08 or maybe 2010. And back then he was saying, social media, it's going to be this big thing and you're not going to believe it, but people are going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars talking about, knitting or talking about whatever, niche topic, insert your favorite niche topic. And people back then were like, oh, you're crazy. Like that's never going to work. And here we are. So to your point, like you'd be surprised how many people there are like you who want a similar thing, but it just doesn't exist. And really, that's the bet. Like in my eyes, like if you make something for yourself, the bet that you are placing is that there are other people like you, and that is a pretty good bet. Like that bet will win a
Totally.
lot. Um,
Totally.
so
The
I think it's a,
nuance, the nuance that I might offer that maybe this is useful for the audience is, yeah, it's like, why, what do you not like? That's great. That's like a problem space to explore. But then the solution, it's not just immediately like jumping to the solution that might be the solution that works the best. It's like an empathy exercise. Like it's like a constant empathy exercise where it's like, why do I want it? Like what? There's like many more questions I think to going deeper. Or as you're thinking about like, how am I going to market this thing? It's that exploration. I think it maybe gets lost in the whole conversation around just like make a product for yourself kind of thing. But then there's like the whole like positioning and how do you make people care about it and want to be a part of it, and how do you talk about it and what words do you do, like all of that does the nitty gritty details when it ultimately comes down to it, that is like it requires a few clicks that I think like the takeaway would be like, how do I not just put myself into my shoes and just write the thing I want to write right now, but like what really addresses what I need, why I need it in such a way where like I haven't yet come to the realization that I have right now that this is the needed thing. And so there's some nuance there that maybe by passing that along, um, it helps the people listening to this be a little bit more successful in getting their thing off the ground.